Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Zouk line. Today, I'm very excited. We get to talk with Nelly Caldeira. Nelly lives in the Bay Area. She is a life coach and a longtime Zouk teacher, a longtime dancer, and she has some really interesting things to say. This episode, it ran a little bit long, close to 2 hours. So, I recommend just taking it bit by bit because she has a philosophy background and wow, just we really get into some things that I think are worth listening to and just really insightful. And this is a really dense episode. So I'm going to do my best to set chapters that are useful in the YouTube video, so it's easy to sort of navigate. But I recommend you sit back, if you're on a long drive, and just have a listen to Nelly and her many ideas around Zouk and finding ourselves in this dance. So anyway, I hope you enjoy it. We'll see you at the end. So hello and welcome to the Zouk line. We've talked a little bit before, just in person and all that, but I just really wanted to bring you on because I feel like you have interesting perspectives, and I saw you, and I took your class at Zouk Heat, and it was fantastic. And I've just heard you in other places, and it seems like you have a lot of thoughts and things to say, and this is what I really wanted to give people an opportunity to have like something to say, a platform to say it. So first, welcome and hello.
Yes, thank you so much. I love that we're starting like in the most organic way possible.
Oh yeah, of course, of course. No, this whole all of these I try to make them as like this is a conversation.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
But
I'm actually very
yeah,
curious to hear as the conversation goes, your experience in Zouk Heat, because I think I have not talked to anyone that has been there. I mean, no one has heard other people like you saying publicly, and even
hmm
me. I think for me it would be awesome to hear. And I'm open. Whatever topics come out, anything that shows up, I'm open to share. And thank you so much for making this space.
of course, of course. Well, let's just start at the beginning then. Let's just go back.
Okay.
How did you first hear about Zouk? What was your first like, oh, this is Zouk moment?
I heard about Zouk from a friend of mine, and he was trying to take me to Zouk for 2 years. He was dancing already, all the other dances in Brazil, and for 2 years, like, you need to come here and do this dance thing with me. But up to that point in my life, I didn't even know about social dance. And I
Uh
was already, how old was I? 24? Yeah.
huh.
I had no clue about social dance or this, you go to a school to learn this. Like, I don't know why this was oblivious to me. So for 2 years, I was saying, yeah, one day I'll show up. One day I'll go. And then at some point, 2 years later, when the friendship was about to end for me, after I'm making so many promises and not showing up,
Uh huh.
okay, I'm gonna really make it tonight. And that's when I got to know Zouk. So this was like 2000, when was that? 15? Yeah.
Oh wow. So Zouk is your first social dance? Like you didn't do salsa or
Yeah, it's
anything else?
my first and only.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
Everything else that I did that I feel like those are social dances in Brazil, like forró or samba, I've done for the sake of fun.
hmm
I've never gone somewhere to learn. Zouk is the only class that I've put time into learning. I'm gonna learn this thing as if I'm going to college.
That is awesome.
You know?
Okay. And then so where in Brazil is this? Where did you first start taking?
I was in Rio, specifically Niterói. That was the city, and that's
hmm
what I was learning. And it was so interesting because my teacher, he was from Renata Peçanha School, so that was my first influence. That's
hmm
when I started. So it was through her methodology, through Renata, because through him actually. Um,
Who's the
yeah,
teacher?
his name is Rodrigo
Uh huh.
Gonçalves. He's a local teacher.
Okay.
So I don't know, many people will know him, but it's awesome to be able to mention his name. Rodrigo, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And also Aila. Aila was his partner, and yeah, she started learning Zooks at the same time as me, but he was teaching her, and then she also became our teacher. So it was really cool.
Oh wow. Okay. All right. So what was the progression? Like when did you get hooked? Or like how like did you immediately get hooked or did you kind of dabble and then later? Or?
hmm Actually, let me just go back a little. I want to say something. I don't know why this seems important. When I
Please.
went to the class, it was actually a social. This friend wanted me to see the dance, so he invited me to a social at the school. And when I joined, I didn't join Rodrigo. I just realized this. For 2, 3 months, I joined a different teacher. But the classes in Brazil back then, we used to have like 20 minutes of different dance styles. So it was like 20 minutes forró, 20 minutes samba, 20 minutes zouk. So this is actually where things are gonna go to Rodrigo. I just realized with this question. And I went to this class that were like three different styles in 1 hour. But Zouk was the style that this other teacher, he was a specialist in samba. He was a samba teacher, samba de gafieira. And the Zouk was never showing. Like, he was like, okay, you guys, let's just do some samba and some forró, some bolero today. And then Zouk was like, once a month, I used to see like 15 minutes of the Zouk thing. And I was like, I could not understand. For 3 months, I was like, what the heck is the Zouk thing? It made no sense for me. But Zouk was not his thing. He was just doing, it was just one of the dances. And the reason why I went to Rodrigo was because I could not understand this 15-minute Zouk thing that happened once here and there. And I felt like with forró and samba, it was so much more familiar for me, culturally saying, so I could just go with it, but I couldn't. So I actually got hooked when I got to see Rodrigo, and I felt like, okay, this is a whole new thing. Like, what is even this? Like, this is new, you know? And I feel like that's when I actually already got hooked because the dance itself had so much structure already compared to all the other dances for me, my own personal experience. It doesn't even compare to now. So now
Huh.
we are in a different layer. But already at that moment, it was like, oh my gosh, there's so much to this dance. And the community was so amazing. The idea of doing those moves that were not like common for me. Like, I don't know. I don't know who does lunges in Brazil or abertura in a movement in general. So those things were all new. I think this is what kept me. It was the community and the curiosity about the dance itself.
So, actually, on that, I have a question. So, how does Zouk fit in with some? You said samba gafi. I can never pronounce the second part of that.
Yes,
Gafieira,
definitely. Yeah.
samba gafieira, and foho. So, like, can you just say just a little bit about foho, like what that is, and samba gafieira, and then because it seems like Zouk is like the new little brother or little sister or whatever of
Yes.
these other dances that are very
Yes.
established in Brazil,
Yeah.
and Zouk is very niche even there. It seems.
Yes.
It seems.
Absolutely. Like most Brazilians do not know Zouk. I
Hmm.
like to say this, and this is sometimes a little shock for me. If you talk about lambada, if you go into this conversation, right? People will hear they might not dance lambada, they might not know how to do it, but lambada is in the blood.
Yeah.
Like lambada is a thing. But Zouk is like, what the heck is Zouk? Like the question that people ask here is Zumba. They do the same thing there. Like my entire life in Zouk's like, oh, you're doing Zumba. I'm like, no, it is Zouk.
Yeah.
And at that time, we didn't even say Brazilian Zouk. We just say Zouk, so it felt so foreign.
Hmm.
Because at some point in our history, we say Brazilian Zouk to differentiate. So they're like, oh, Brazilian? Is this something Brazilian? But at the point, I just said Zouk. So there was no cultural relationship. So for me and Samba, and I like to say them, these are more street dances. You learn them in the street. You
Hmm.
learn them outside. You're gonna go to, there's a place called Lapa in Rio de Janeiro, in Rio, and that's where we all go to. Like it's the hub. It's like a place in New York. Like everything is happening there. You have all these styles, all kinds of people, all
Hmm.
realities, and you're gonna hear that music being played outside. You're gonna drink something, listening to forró music, listening to samba. So samba, pagode, these are music genres that we grow up with, so the steps they come through the music. The music already invite those movement, those qualities, even if it's just samba no pé. So even though samba de gafieira is still more of a school kind of thing, you're not gonna just go out dancing samba de gafieira. You have the samba energy in your system already. You have the ginga. You have the swag already exists within the body. You know what I'm
Uh-huh.
saying? So I grew up seeing my mom and my dad dancing forró. So like whenever
Huh.
there's a family gathering, music in my family is like it's just this is basics. There's food, water, and music. Music is not something extra. It's constantly playing. I grew up listening to music. So it's not really about the style, but it's literally more of a cultural thing. So
Hmm.
even now when we talk about Zouk, as a Brazilian, sometimes I have a little bit of a resistance to it. I feel like, yeah, but we don't have to talk that much because honestly, if you talk to Brazilians, they don't have this cultural appropriation of Brazilian. Like, there's no familiarity with Zouk. So I feel like when we go to Lambada roots, I feel like, okay, now we're talking more about home. Even if I didn't dance that thing, I listened to the music. My grandma, chorando se foi. We used to clean the house listening to this. So like this is part of my growing up experience. Zouk
Yeah.
wasn't, you
Oh, that's
know?
fascinating. That's fascinating. Okay. And okay, and I do have one more question about samba. So, are there different types of samba? Because people say samba gafieira. Are there is it samba something else?
Yes,
Samba what?
yeah.
Where,
It's because
what are
they
some of the other?
samba no pé
Uh huh.
is the samba that we do by ourselves. If we see carnival in Brazil and we see all these amazing people in these outfits or during the parade and they are doing all this ginga in their own footwork. So there is samba no pé. Samba de gafieira is this social dance. It's two people dancing like zouk. So it is a social dance. It is a partner dance and there is a lot more structure to it, but all of the samba ginga, all of the energy of samba is there. But just like we have bachata sensual and bachata and whatever, Dominican and whatever, we
Yeah.
also have like samba funkeado. Like so you're going to have different layers of flavors of samba, but this is already inside of the social samba dance, the partner samba, which is
Yeah.
not as common. Not many people dance samba de gafieira, but everyone believes they do ish because
Hmm.
they have
Hmm.
samba, so they just throw whatever it is into it. So yes, that is the samba no pé, the dance that we dance solo, and we also have samba de gafieira, which is a partner dance. But my experience in Brazil, I've seen people doing samba no pé, which is a solo dance together,
Oh,
because
okay.
culture itself is already communal. There's already a lot of exchange. So I've seen my parents dance samba. You're gonna say, is that samba de gafieira or samba no pé? I'm like, nothing. The music, the pagode, the samba music creates those movements. And
Yeah.
they dance, like so. My dad, my mom and my dad, I used to say, are they now that I know dance? I feel like I think they're doing some bolero. Like we have the Brazilian ballroom dances.
Uh huh.
Sometimes my dad is just going side to side, and I feel like, okay, he's just doing some bolero with my mom. But there's no structure, there's no connection. You don't have to step on this line. They're just moving together.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a different, it's very different in my reality looking at dance as something that comes from a school
Right.
that has a structure and a language, and something that comes from the street
Yeah.
that is a language but it's different.
Right. Right.
Parameters are different, the reference is different.
And it's so interesting how Zouk has got. Well, I mean, I don't mean. I mean, I guess Zouk has interesting like evolution, right? Because yeah, because
Yes.
from what we've all heard that it's like it started with lambada and then it evolved out of lambada because they stopped playing the music, and then Zouk was born for slower and also was accommodating older dancers, et cetera, et cetera. And then it is interesting because my relationship with dance and music is very similar, where it's you the music motivates the movement as opposed to trying to
Yes.
fit the movements into the music.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'm just yeah, that it is interesting how we've gotten very academic with Zouk. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And the only reason we got so academic is because it's not in the street. You can
Yeah,
contain because it's already being born in a container. I
yeah,
like to say Zouk is a lab dance.
yeah.
Being created in a laboratory, like it doesn't come from the street, because if it comes fully from the street, you cannot control fully,
Hmm.
because it's the language is gonna be existing beyond your capacity to define it. So I have this relationship as like I love Zouk, like I live with Zouk and for Zouk, but it's still for me my experience, and that's why moving and grooving, right? My
Uh,
experience is like I cannot take Zouk back to the streets because it wasn't there. So like I'm not trying to make Zouk something that it's never been, and
right.
I'm not going to try to use that conversation just to be politically correct and try to say people respect my culture. I'm like, man, respect my culture no matter what. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
make up reasons. I want to value what feels true to the movement, to the dance, and I still see Zouk as a result of a cultural movement. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? There's still a lot of my culture and my movement and many other people's movement in the dance itself.
Yeah.
It's just being revamped.
Uh huh.
But if you actually take off all the layers, you're gonna see, like in Moving and Grooving the other day, I was teaching about all these choreographies that we dance, all this funk, axé, all these other music genres that we have in Brazil that we
Hmm.
dance for so long. And I can see the relationship. I feel like, oh. So when I use moving and grooving, I'm telling people, I'm not trying to tell you that chronologically Bate Cabelo came from this movement. I'm just wanting you to see that there is a bridge. There is a movement that exists in my body, in the dances that we do since I've been born, and the
Hmm.
things that are happening in Zouk right now, even though they look slightly different. So I like to talk about this movement here that we do a lot, and I
Hmm.
like to talk about this capacity to actually rotate and twist, and how this is gonna get here at some point. But this was already there. Boom, this energy, this
Yeah.
rotation was already there. It was not in lambada. It was not like, I'm not trying to say, oh, this was in lambada, this was in bolero. No, this was in the body of the people. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And
Right.
that's the point, because I feel like we don't have to justify everything in a chronological way. We can say this exists within the culture,
Uh-huh.
and it shows up in ways that is not just chronological or conscious. There's no awareness sometimes. When Mark is moving his hips, he's moving his hips. When William is swagging some, he's swagging in the way. When we look at Walter, like Valtinho, Walter
Hmm.
dancing, that comes from, that comes from
Yeah.
here. So, and not always it's conscious, but I like to bring a little bit of awareness that it doesn't have to be Zouk to be Brazil.
What is moving and grooving? You mentioned that. So can you tell the people what that is?
Cool. So moving and grooving is one of the projects that I'm bringing to the front as part of my dance and coaching and life business.
Hmm. Hmm.
um, and the intention of this project specifically is to bring people back into moving for moving, because I have, okay, I don't know if this is gonna sound bad, but I didn't know this was a bad thing to say until I understood the English context. I like
Let's
to
hear it.
say, do not do the movement, let the movement do you.
Uh
And I
huh.
had
Uh
this
huh.
thing to say, do you, and people say, let me do you, and people are like, no, Nelly, you're not understanding what you've been saying in class. And I was like, what am I saying? But I have this thing that my students say, maybe we need to create a T-shirt with this. Do not do the movement, let the movement do you. And they're like, oh, Jesus Christ. Now I understand what that goes. But this is kind of the intention for me with moving and grooving is like, what kind of movement does your body feel like doing if you really silence other aspects of your mind and cultural background? And I think fun is
Hmm.
the stage for this space. It's not mental understanding, it's not teaching how to do certain things, it's letting the body move. And this is what I use moving and grooving. So moving and grooving is more than that. This is what it looks like right now. My intention is for moving and grooving to become an experience. It is an immersion. It's gonna be a weekender. It's gonna be a place where people are gonna go to for different layers of movement in the
Hmm.
future. Right now, I bring my Brazilian movement background, and that's why I say it's a Brazilian experience. It's not a Brazilian dance,
Hmm.
because when I'm guiding people, I'm improvising. So right now, moving and grooving looks like a class where we're gonna solo dance, and I try to use 100% music from Brazil, from different styles. It can be
Yeah.
forró, bolero, samba, funk, axé. I bring all types of dance of music styles with the intention to move my body in an improvised way, and people follow me along. Um, at the same time, I am actually also using that to develop all the qualities that we have in our Zouk dance. Because most of the time we're trying to create movement inside of a structure without knowing what that motion would have been without the structure to contain it, like waves and snakes and hip mobility. And we already learned this inside of a structure. And I've seen that this can be helpful sometimes when people do not have a reference. But this is all that we have nowadays. And I feel like, wow, you're trying to understand how to wave your body already by leading someone.
Hmm.
And leading someone means that the container of the movement is so much more smaller, and there's so many things that you need to think of. So right now, the first part of moving and grooving is solo dance. There is a lot of body preparation, but I also want to expose people to the Brazilian energy that I feel like I miss a lot in the
Uh huh.
US.
Yeah.
Um, so the music for me evokes the energy that I already know I live with. So the music supports me to already have that naturally. I don't have to make that up. It's within me already. All my background, all my culture is in me when the songs come up,
Yeah.
and people have a lot of fun. The second hour of moving and grooving, normally I have a theme for the moving and grooving solo dance class,
Hmm.
and after this solo dance we do zouk, and I'm gonna apply those concepts in a container, always trying to bring them back to the body. So right now, this is the project. The project's starting to look different because it's evolving as well. So this is how it happens here in the Bay. But my intention is to bring this each day more to events. I want people in congresses and in festivals to have access to this. I want this to be one of those classes where you can go and you're going to have fun and you're going to feel like, wow, I have a transition point from sequences and technique where I just drop into my body, and then when I go next to the next class, I feel like I'm literally back into my body and I was able to laugh and get all this tension that we hold while learning Zouk out of our system. So this is one avenue of the real project that I have.
Okay. What and can you describe? Because I hear about this, and I'm not sure how to describe it myself. But the Brazilian energy. Can you describe what
Yeah,
that is, as far as like what you don't often get in the U.S.
awesome. And this is going to be a lot of a personal perception as well.
Of course.
I think part of my, I have a part of this is an educated opinion as a coach, as a dancer, as an instructor, and also I think as a Brazilian, I miss a way to handle dance where the purpose of what you do is in the moment that you created and nothing else. I feel like our minds in Zouk here, it's always in the future. Either what's possible to be created, or what that's gonna turn out to be, or what I'm gonna get out of it, or what someone else is gonna get out of it. And I feel like, can you just be here for this
Yeah.
right now? Even if this turned out to be nothing outside of this very single moment. And I feel like my relationship with movement and also in my culture understanding in Rio de Janeiro, of course, I cannot talk for all the Brazil, but it's like I'm doing this for doing this right now. I'm here. I'm not in my next step. And I miss this a lot. It's very hard for me because of all the cultural, the differences, how the dance, what the dance has become, the standards that we hold for this dance, how we teach it, how we learn it, how we interact or not interact with other people. Like we're always somewhere else. We're never there. I feel like how
Hmm.
much time have you spent with the motion for the motion, even if you get nothing outside of this moment? And I feel like when people go to Brazil, the sensation of I love this and I don't give a damn. It's like I care about this so much and I don't care about this at all. It exists in such an easy way in my system.
Hmm.
I feel like I love this. This is everything for me. And if it doesn't happen, I don't give a damn. Like I have the same amount of carrying and non-attachment to the thing in my experience. And I know it's not like this for everyone, but this is what I experience in my culture. There are downsides to this, okay? But there are a lot of positive into this. And when we see people traveling to Brazil, they talk about this energy so friendly, so whatever. Not everyone has the same experience, but in a stereotypical way, like
Uh-huh.
wow, there's this energy when I go to the Ramalhos festival. Like I love the Ramalhos. I think they have the. I think they represent the thing. They are raw Brazil. They come in one place to teach,
Hmm.
and I'm not saying they're not good teachers, okay? But the energy that they fill up, the way they show up, the energy they bring with themselves, it's a little bit about let's just have fun, let's do this, let's try, and you just feel like I'm gonna be here, and you might be screwing it all up. At the same time, you feel like I'm having so much progress, I'm enjoying, I'm in the present moment, I'm creating so much with my partner. The dance becomes dance. It becomes movement that is shared and experienced. And I feel like in oh gosh, here I go. Haters
There
are
we
gonna
go.
hate, lovers are
Yes, I
gonna
love
love.
it.
I
Let's
feel like
get there.
I feel like right now we are divided into not right now, but it's been there for a while. We're divided in two worlds in the Zouk dance for me. Either
Yeah.
I am in the technique area where I have all these bunch of names that I'm not gonna say, but you all will know. Like we have all these bunch of names that you're gonna associate with technique, high performance, whatever, Jack and Jill, whatever you want to. And I have this other side of people that are experiencing the present moment, living in the body, in this
Yeah.
spiritual transcendence. And I feel like, wait, but this is like, this dichotomy is too strong for me. And for me, it's not realistic
Yeah.
because no one is living in these moments forever. So the Brazilian energy that I talk about is kind of trying to blend this in. I super care about where I'm putting my feet, and I don't care at all. Like I care for just a certain amount of time,
Yeah.
and there's a threshold for how much I care about how perfect that is.
Uh-huh.
After that, I'm gonna say, fuck it. We say in Brazil, like chutar o balde. This is a very strong expression in Brazil. It means to kick the bucket. Just
Uh-huh.
kick the bucket. So you there, it matters to a certain extent, and after this, you're like, you know what? It doesn't even matter that much. But that doesn't mean giving up. It's just
Yeah.
you're just approaching it differently.
Yeah.
And I feel like here we are in these extremes. And
Hmm.
I feel like,
Yeah.
wow, there's a bridge. And I keep on telling people, I had a conversation with Paloma yesterday. I said, Paloma, not that I'm the only one. There are many people this. This is the mission that I feel like it's mine. It's
Hmm.
I want to show to people that it's possible to live in a world where structure and spontaneity exist in a
Yeah.
very harmonious and positive way. And this is
Yeah.
what I feel like moving and grooving does because it brings structure to it. There's structure to my class. And sometimes there's chaos. You feel like I don't even know what is going on. I'm just jumping right now. I don't even understand, but I am here. So I think this is the energy of Brazil that I miss. It's how we approach things where there's caring but there's no attachment. And it could
Yeah.
go in a negative way, but it makes life so much easier, for me, and makes progress so much more possible. And you can please completely disagree, agree partially, ask, deny, bring different examples. I would love to hear your opinion. How
I
this
you know
lens is.
Okay, so I because I absolutely completely agree with you that there's this. I feel like we're actually watching Zook split
Yeah,
entirely. Yeah,
yeah.
and it's like I'm just like any day there's going to be a new name. I mean, well, there was the bachata thing where it's what bachata. What I forget what they called it. It's like improv sensual or something like that, where it was like basically it was Zouk, but it was to a bachata beat.
Yeah.
Um, but what I think a lot of people struggle with in the U.S. is because there is such a strong emphasis on it being specifically Brazilian.
Yeah.
So, and it's like you're saying, you're like, there's just my body. It has this. It
Mm-hmm.
wants, there's something that it's craving that it can't quite have. But then you also have people who come from other backgrounds, and I feel like their body wants whatever they came from, but
Yes.
there's so much emphasis about trying to be specifically Brazilian, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's so we're in this place where people are wanting to do something, but they're not quite getting satisfied in the way that they the way that they want to do it.
Yeah.
It just
And I'm
creates
gonna.
an interesting situation.
I think you're mentioning something there that is really powerful for me, and it's
Uh huh.
a little bit of a shock for me as a Brazilian person because we talk a lot about Brazilian things, but we're not approaching a Brazilian way. I think people are looking at shapes and forms and saying this is Brazilian, this is not Brazilian, this is
Yeah.
Brazilian, this is not. I don't have this hip mobility here. This is not Brazilian. And I think Brazilian way for me is not what you do, is the way that you approach life. This is how I see my culture.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like me and my friends, we're completely different, man. If you look at my family, each one of us look to be from one different country. We don't look the same. Like we are completely different. We're like I'm talking about red-headed black people, blonde girls. Like we're all we are
Yeah.
cousins. And people look, how is this possible? I'm like because my grandfather was black and my mom was Italian. So like my house is this thing, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like we have this negative approach to I need to be Brazilian. Oh, if I don't have the Brazilian hips, oh my gosh, now there's more pressure. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, so we're not doing Brazilian enough. Maybe Nelly need to bring this Brazilian. And for me, what I'm gonna say is like I don't see a Brazilian approach to the Brazilian dance. We're talking
Uh-huh.
about movements and qualities and what we consider to be a Brazilian connection, a Brazilian body, a Brazilian flavor. But that's not what I'm talking about. And that's why right now I'm bringing the Brazilian energy because this is what I have. I cannot bring something else.
Of
But
course.
my intention with this project is that I'm already revealing things here. Never said this to anyone. My intention with this project is that right now here in the Bay, it's like a 2 hour class. I'm gonna turn this into an immersion thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like I want to expand because I want different types of movement and teachers and dancers to come in because I want people to find the motion that exists with themselves. But the reason why I call it Brazilian approach It's
Uh-huh.
because of how I'm handling it, not exactly about what it looks like. It's not like about what I'm doing, how my hip is moving, to the point that people are going to be moving completely different in my class. And I say, let it out, you know? And I know from a standard, people might want to keep shapes and movements in a certain way because that
Hmm.
also classifies the dance. But right now, I'm more interested in unlocking the mind and the body than trying to provide a specific formula of how you're supposed to look like at the end of all of this or
Hmm.
how exactly you're supposed to feel. It's not about this. It's just the approach that I bring. That's why I call moving and grooving. I don't say Brazilian flavor too. I don't put because it's a moving and grooving with Nelly. This is very specific. And I put it down a Brazilian experience because this is what I bring. It's this Brazilian approach in my mind. But it could be called anything else in the future. I'm not attached. And this is why I'm going to say, Adam, moving and grooving is just one part of my project.
Yeah.
The other aspect of mindset coaching, emotional intelligence, behavior change, identity, this other part is absolutely necessary because anything that comes out into the world can become a box.
Hmm.
And without this other aspect of how do you see, how do you think, how do you approach? Because I don't think what's going to support the dancing in general is just the Brazilian approach. I also think it's a growth mindset. I also think there's another aspect of this that Brazilians, non Brazilians, they need. It doesn't matter. You're human. Do you breathe? You're
Yeah.
walking here and there. You need this. So part of this that I'm doing is through a Brazilian approach because it's what I can bring.
Hmm.
The other part is the mental, emotional mindset thing because it's a human thing. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like if I just did moving and grooving, for example, I'm just going to become another dichotomy in the group.
Uh-huh.
And my intention is to unite, and I'm not gonna unite through movement. I'm gonna unite through this. That's where we're gonna drop into our hearts, drops into our mind, and like, how are we approaching this? How are we thinking about this? When I tell I'm bringing a Brazilian experience, what are you hearing when I say this? Are you hearing that you need to become Brazilian? Okay, so let's talk about the four agreements. That's an assumption.
Hmm.
Or let's try to make sure that I can bring up to you a clear version of what I'm trying to say. Let's see where in our communication we're mismatching. Because as a personal transformation coach that works primarily with communication, I know that the mismatch isn't a communication, even when the intentions are similar. So I keep on saying that I have two sides. There are two pillars on this that I'm doing. One of them is the coaching mindset because I need a place where I can digest how people are perceiving and understanding the idea that I'm bringing and everything that already exists. So I
Hmm.
don't think it's a one thing, Grooving and grooving is not going to solve anyone's problem. Oh, this is the no, it doesn't even want to be. But I know that when people are in class, they experience the class differently and it's not something I can prove. And they might feel like this was totally useless. Some people say, Nelly, I learned so many things here. Like I feel like, wow, this movement that I was doing with my follow became so much better because of this movement that you were asking me to shake. Now I understand. Some people like they make instantaneous connection.
Hmm.
Some people say, Nelly, this was totally useless for Zouk, but I feel like I had the best time of my life. Now I can go to that Zouk class that I want to take, and I feel like I'm so relaxed that I actually got to learn. So I want the benefit of the experience that I'm bringing to be whatever you need it to be. you know.
Oh, absolutely.
Anyway,
Okay. Yeah. So
is it
I'm sorry.
is this making sense? What I'm
I
sharing?
think so. Yeah, because I mean, yeah, like I think what I'm grasping to is the overarching goal is to remind people that they're doing this to have fun. Is that
Yeah,
it?
I would
And
say
I
yes.
suppose connection too, but yeah, go ahead.
To have fun, but this is the other aspect of it. You don't Fun is not opposite to intentional.
Right.
Fun is not opposite to structure. You can have structure and have fun. You can have fun and learn in a progressive way. I think my intention is to dissolve the dichotomy that either I'm having fun or I'm having progress.
I see.
Like
Yeah.
I want to dissolve the dichotomy that either I have structure or I'm dancing spontaneously and I'm dropping to my body. I like to say that my biggest gift personally is
Hmm.
dichotomies are I handle paradox and dichotomy in a very interesting way to the point that I feel like everyone thinks like that. I'm like, oh no, Nelly, it's just you. Like I don't handle things in oppositions very strictly.
Uh-huh.
I understand how things are very fluid for me and they work together. So I think the core center of where I go with the mission that I have in the world is to dissolve these dichotomies, to create more flexibility. Like there can be a lot of growth in something that you went there for fun, and there can be a lot of I went there for a reason and got something else, and that was actually beneficial. Not
Hmm.
only like I really want to dissolve the common thinking, and say like there's so much power in control, there's so much power in surrender. These things actually support each other.
Right.
So I want to dissolve the dichotomies because I definitely want to take this is so much more than dance for me. Dance
Right.
for me right now is just how it's happening. You know what I'm saying? I think
Yeah.
I love to dissolve in the what if. If you really loved me, you would have called like all this. If I really knew Zook, I would have this. If like all these ifs and what ifs, I feel like we can dissolve them. They are not empowering. They are not supporting you. They're actually taking away from your life force, from your life experience. So I think fun is how people see when they go to moving and grooving. But once they spend time with me here in a conversation, they're like, wow, this is so deep.
Yeah.
Because depth and that's why people call me the silly and profound. Because I
The
start a
silly and the
conversation
profound. Uh-huh.
the silly and profound, and it's a very delicious, yummy relationship with this.
Uh-huh.
Like I think something that is absolutely silly is something absolutely profound. Something that is very simple. There's so much complexity in simplicity. Like I feel like there's so much simplicity in complexity. Like you can choose to see things in ways that is a lot more fluid, considering who you are in the moment, what you wanting in the moment, what are you needing in the moment. If I go deep into my mission, is much deeper than what we're saying.
Oh, right, right, right. Yeah.
At the same time, it's just that simple. you
Yeah.
know.
Huh. Yeah.
I think that fun is the avenue right now. From
Mm-hmm.
um, I would like to say from an emotional mental state, me bringing depth to the front line of my business, and I'm talking as a business owner right now. Me bringing depth is not gonna support because people are already deep in their shit. You know what I'm saying? So like and this is part of the NLP coaching work. A cup, how do we say this? A cup is better filled when empty.
Oh, I see. Uh-huh. Okay.
So
Can you? Yeah.
there's a lot of heaviness for perfectionism, technique, or whatever reason. Okay, trying to be Brazilian. Like we
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of depth in very negative, unhealthy mental emotional ways. So me bringing mental emotional conversation when people's capacity to receive is already absolutely like I can't. Even though what you're talking about, Nelly, is so important, they're like, I just can't because I came out of 9 hours of work and I'm trying to go to the dance class and I feel like I'm just shittier than what I was before. And I didn't even finish the deadline from work from tomorrow, but I'm gonna be performing next week. And then there's this Jack and Jill that I signed up for a training. So like people's cup is full. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, the fun is the avenue to light it up, empty it out, so deeper things that are meaningful to you in your individual choices and in our dance collective can start arriving. And this is part of my coaching process. So no matter how meaningful the details from a Zouk class is, if the students are burdened, teachers, you need to make it lighter. You need to simplify. You need to give less because there's too much in. There's too much to take in. And it's not about the power of what you're giving, it's about the capacity to receive. So I feel like moving and grooving right now is what it seems possible, doable, is what's emptying people's cup. It's what brings some fresh air of possibility. Hey, I can go back to have fun. And once people are having fun and they're feeling like there's more spaciousness, I didn't do 4 hours of class after class in the festival. And I feel like I actually don't know anything that I learned, and that's so much that I should be knowing, but I don't even know what I. So once people's state is lighter, I can bring back in the parts of complexity that need to be seen. But right now, people have no condition. Honestly, I feel like in our scene, in many ways, either we're dancing a lot because of craving and there is a sense of desperation. It's
Mm-hmm.
not really a sense of continuous progress. Like progress is given, you guys. If you show up, anything that you do in your life, that you show up consistently, 1% better every day, you're gonna get better. But the pace that you're putting yourself into, the amount of pressure you taking in or you creating, this is not going to allow you to get to see, to even notice the progress because you're not in the moment. So for me, fun is the avenue, is what's gonna create space, but it's not the only thing. It's just what is possible. For me, this is like teaching. I tell my students, I'm teaching you what I think you need. And if you dance stepping out, I'm gonna invite you to step in. But if you see the next class and they shouldn't step in, I'm inviting them to step out. So which
Mhm.
one is the right one? I'm like the one that allows you to balance what you want, the one that decreases the gap between where you are and where you want to be. And your
Mhm.
distance from your AB is different from that person AB. So it's not about right and wrong. I'm just closing in the gap. This is how I see myself as a teacher. So all the techniques, everything that I know for teaching are actually tools that will plug in people's needs and on realities. And of course, there are standards and things and safety and comfort. But the
Right.
truth that I'm giving to you, not the technique isolated from context, which is what is my biggest problem in teaching methodology nowadays. People teach isolated technique. They're not looking at the students. They're not looking at what's needed. They're teachers out there. I'm sorry. I love you guys. I think you guys have lots of, including me, we have lots to offer, but we need to be more sensible too. Our intention is to close the gap, is to take them where they're wanting to go to some extent, to the best of our capacity. It's not to work with the standard and sell the cake no matter who's buying. Like you guys are selling same cake flavors, like no matter who's buying. Like it's just so disconnect from the heart, from your humanity, you know? But if I bring this energy, people like you feel like, oh my gosh, it's really bad. So
No.
you know what I'm saying? Depending on where you are, that feels
Yeah.
like damn, it is deep. I was like, yeah, but it can be fun at the same time.
I think there is I think a lot of the dancers, especially dancers that have been around for a while, are feeling what you're describing, where it's well, I feel like there's a little bit of a there's a little bit of a fight. I feel like in the community where I guess one way it manifests is just with music, for example, to where um there is the music and the feel that I'm just trying to think of how to say it without getting myself in trouble too. But yeah, there's
You're gonna get in trouble. There's no other
yeah,
way.
I was gonna Joe. That's just we'll just have to whatever. No, but like I think there's definitely a large part of the community who really enjoys calmer, connected, slower, moment to moment sort of like music, for example. And then there is what is more prescribed typically from the artist, like
Yeah,
typically, where
yeah.
it's just like very Rio, very high energy, whatever. And so you have this thing to where there's frustration among some of these dancers because that's what their body is calling for, but then there is this desire to recreate something that's in Brazil, maybe, or what's imagined in Brazil. I don't know. So what do you like? Yeah, I don't even know what my question for you other than
No, I can hear what you're saying. Like I can hear the
yeah,
dichotomy. It's almost like in the intention to bring Brazil, there is also sometimes a standard we're holding ourselves to that is disconnect from the people that are here.
right.
And there are all these preferences, you know. Um,
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, if I go to, I've always said this among friends. If I go to Europe, I want to know what it's like to dance the way Europeans do Zouk. I don't want Rio everywhere or Sao Paulo
yeah,
everywhere. It's just
yeah,
like no, like it'd be nice to go to Asia. Like oh, this is how they dance in Asia. Oh, this is how they dance
yeah,
in Europe. This is how
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
And this means accepting that Zouk is not what we think Zouk is,
yeah,
because Zouk has been a creation of collectives,
yeah,
and everyone find themselves with the right to choose a little bit of how that's supposed to look like and feel. And
hmm
the truth is that this is the truth of how this dance is. So how much Brazilian are we gonna keep making it? That's my question. You know, like how much appropriation all the sides are taking in a more collective way?
yeah,
Because yeah, many things were created out of Brazil for the Zouk that we see today.
hmm
And like this desire to bring it back to root in whatever shape or form, even like mine, might not be welcome because you might feel like this is not what Zouk feels for me.
yeah,
You know, and that's where I'm gonna say we can get into this discussion from defending the dance, Like I can start talking about the dance, what the dance is. For me, this is already a problem. And that's why I talk about, I don't know if you heard of, you listen to the podcast, but I talk about being a personal transformation coach. I think we need to go back to being human here. I don't
Hmm.
think trying to define what the dance is and what it looks like, it's not going to help us. What is going to help us is a level of compassion and
Yeah.
growth as a person that allows you to get what you want, knowing that not always you do it. That allows you to know that sometimes you do not get what you want, and there is a positive, like we say in NLP and Huna, the some of the main tools that I use in my coaching, that everything is either a blessing or a lesson. If you take it as a failure, is how you perceive it. So for me,
Hmm.
everything is a blessing or a lesson. And blessing normally is like I got exactly what I expected. A lesson is I got exactly what I needed to get, so the next step moves forward more effortlessly, even if it's not comfortable.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I feel like it's mindset that we're working on. And I don't think like I don't think talking about things external, the person, this is my approach to life in my business. Talking about things outside of me makes it external to the point that I can dissociate. So when we talk about Zouk, what is Zouk? I feel like this is already an excuse. This makes it easier. What is you? What is your approach? That's personal. How do you handle when you show up into a class and the class is not the class that you expected? Do you stay in that class and feel like, I'm open to staying to this class and I'm enjoying this class today? This is what I got. I'm going to be open minded. Do you say, you know what? This is not what I'm wanting. Let me see if I can get my money back and set a boundary. Are you acting out of curiosity and saying, like, let me surrender? Are you approaching life with surrender? Let me stay into this class. It's not what I wanted. Are you saying, for example, this is not what I came for? And understanding this, do you blame people for not giving you what you thought you would get? Or do you say, hey, can I get my refund? This was not the class that I was wanting. Do you stay there and then talk to someone, hey, I stayed for the class because I really wanted to support the community, but that was not really what I was wanting. Do you know where I can go to find that?
Hmm.
Like, there's so, like, our life is based on how we approach it. So if I talk about Zouk, I feel like this is the easy it's not easy, but you're taking less responsibility about what you can actually do to change the reality that you're living in. And the
Right.
reason why I love being a personal transformation coach is because after all of this conversation, I go back to the person. I'm not gonna go back to Zouk because at least Zouk is something beyond us. You know what I'm saying? And I really see Zouk as a dance of a collective. I
Hmm.
literally, literally do see. And I also guess that somehow this, well, Lambada, here we go. Oh my gosh. I want to say, but then I feel like, should I? It's a part of the
Safe place.
dichotomy. I'll handle
Yeah.
it. I'll handle it. I'm always hoping to understand and listen and change. I'm very open to change, including my opinion. But
Yeah.
Lambada, I see it. I see these dichotomies sometimes in Lambada too, because Lambada, depending on where you're learning, how you're learning, who you're learning from, and stuff, it can go back to the roots of Brazil. And most people feel like I cannot say something because it feels very much as it was.
Hmm.
So there's this sense of that is literally a cultural thing. It's like
Yeah.
forró. I want you to go to forró and say, let me see the European way of dance forró. You might dance with European people, but forró is gonna be forró. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But with
Yeah.
Zouk, the movement itself has split in so many possibilities of what it's supposed to feel and look. And I see lambada nowadays, and depending on how I am feeling it, I feel like okay, this type of class, the way lambada is being taught and approached here, it's almost like, hey, this is me coming to your home to see what you have to offer to me.
Hmm.
But depending on where Lambada goes, sometimes I say I feel like, oh my gosh, it's gonna end up like Zoo. Like we're getting that screwed. When I see, depending on how Lambada is being approached, when it goes under the Zouk way of the current Zouk way of approaching it as a dance, as whatever,
Uh-huh.
this is my Lambada, this is your Lambada.
Uh-huh.
That is the Lambada of. So we have this conversation about whose Zouk we're dancing,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
because so many people truly contributed to it. And they're having the sense of ownership or entitlement or whatever that is, positively or negatively, they want to defend this contribution.
Right.
So I can be discussing here, and I feel like this is a very complicated place to be. But
Yeah.
when I say, can you create something and knowing that you are the one that created, let someone take ownership for that today? How does that affect your ego? What is it? What is it that is holding you? What is that's causing you to be so attached to saying, this is me? Please, it is me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what is it? To what frequency? So I'm interested in people. My biggest intention is it's coaching for dancers right now. It is literally coaching because it's gonna go back to people. I don't think there's much we can do about Zouk because Zouk, when I say there's not much that we can do, it's like trying to everyone come into a one opinion about Zouk.
Right.
But you're the only person entitled to have an opinion about yourself and how you show up. You know what I'm saying? You can really see how are you showing up, how is that affecting other people. And I think our human approach to life and to ourselves will change our approach to Zouk. And I don't think it's the easy work. I don't think this is the work that is going to give results tomorrow. I think this is the type of work that is a growth mindset, is the 1% better. We're making an investment here for the next generations, and we might see in our own generation some of the results, but this is about faith and patience. Continue doing it. But if we live in the Bay Area way of living, it's for now, it's for today, it's innovative, it's the last minute, it's the upgraded. Like, yeah, that's gonna be very hard. If you guys wanna see, if you wanna plant the seeds today and tomorrow already use the shadow of the tree, you know why I want to live in the shadow of the tree. So you plant the tree today and you're hoping to live under the shadow of it, the shade, right? Not shadow,
Yeah,
shade.
yeah, yeah. I know. Yep, yep.
I feel like you cannot plant the seed today and want to live out of the shade of it tomorrow. Like you need to be realistic about the time that life takes to grow things.
Yeah.
You might still get the shade, but plant with the idea that the seed is coming, the tree is coming, the plant's coming. You know, there will be shade. And for some of us, we're going to live out of faith. Some of us are going to live out of results.
Hmm.
So this is the approach that I take to life. And I think this is where I actually go with all of this, you know.
I
Or
think
this is my,
I sorry, I didn't hear you. What you saying?
I just said, this is, I think, is my contribution to it. It's not the only way. I don't think I have the final answer, but I know that this is where what I can bring, and then more other approaches and other ways to coexist will come together. You know?
Can I talk? Yeah. Can we talk about a hot? It's kind of a hot button topic, a little bit, because and it's related to this, which is, um, because you've been doing Zouk since 2015 ish,
Yeah,
20 around there, and then I was a little bit late, like around 2017 or whatever. So I've been doing this for a while, and um, and then so I look around and I see fewer and fewer people that started when I did. Of course, there's going to be a natural like attrition of people that, they move on to different parts of their lives, doing other things. But I feel like there is, I, I think a lot of dancers are beginning to see the glass ceiling that exists for people who aren't Brazilian in Zouk, where it's like, oh, they've been learning it and they've know this and they've been doing it for a very long time and they've gotten very good at it, but as far as like getting hired any place or just being taken seriously in this, there's this frustration because they're not Brazilian. So there's just this lack of like legitimacy that comes out, and so I feel like this is like the struggle that I'm just seeing a lot recently. Um,
teachers, you
yeah,
mean? Or
among teachers and just high level dancers, people who would even consider teaching, and a part of me even sees this trend of bachata pulling more Zouk moves as it might, and like I feel like initially it's just like, oh my god, this is like just bad Zouk, but then another part of me, after I thought about it for a minute, was like, well, maybe this is a natural path for like experienced Zouk dancers, because there is opportunity in bachata
yeah,
for experienced, not Brazilian dancers to
yeah,
grow and be taken seriously. And like, if they want to it's difficult to have a career in dance, as we all know. But if they wanted to have a career in dance, way more opportunity there than there is in the actual Zouk scene.
yeah.
Um, what do you? Again, I don't know what my question is, but what do you think about this dynamic? And that's right. That's right. The reason I mentioned it was the growth. I'm concerned about the growth of Zouk because there is that component of it to where it can't grow unless you grow new teachers, but the only new teachers have to be from Rio de Janeiro or Sao Paulo. It seems like.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting you're saying this because I can see this happening
Mm.
and I can see the opposite at the same time, which
Oh,
is
say
so
more, say more.
interesting.
Uh huh.
Yeah, I feel like I can see, oh man. I need to go back to coaching because there's no other way. There's just no other way. I need to go back to mindset and perception because
Yeah.
I'm so in love with perception, right? I think it depends on which side of the bubble we are and which direction you're looking at. Because I feel like there are so many components to this. I think one, yes, you're right. I actually got a message from someone, about a teacher from Scotland. He listened to the podcast with Dance No Cap, and he sent all these messages. I got these people, like people from Australia, Kizomba teacher from Australia. I have these people that I feel like, what did you hear this? Like this world is so crazy, right? And then they
Hmm.
are resonating with so many things in their own world.
Yeah.
Um, but this one specifically was telling me that there's a lot of bachateros being shamed for not having a Zuki movement. And there are
Hmm.
a lot of bachateros that do not dance Zuki at all, but they already feel like, oh, I'm not being Zuki. And I feel like, what the fuck? Like this person is like, because there's one thing is what is happening in the leadership trickles down to what's happening in the social, and that's why I keep on saying that the responsibility is of organizers and teachers here, and it's not what we do, it's how we do it. I'm gonna go back to how we approach it. All of us want many results, like all of us want the same results for many things. Everyone wants to have $1,000 next month. I'm just making something up. How many people want to have $1,000? What are the different approaches that these people have? The approach defines the result, not the goal. We all share goals, but who get there, who doesn't? How do you approach this approach will make the difference, right? Why am I saying this? I brought this from this bachata teacher, and I think he dances other stuff too, and he was mentioning to me what the students are feeling. And if like, how would a student feel this? Because there's already a big fight of big dogs. The big dogs here, they
Yeah.
already blame each other. You're Nazuki, you're Nazuki. But a bachatero that doesn't dance Zouk, that this has not seen Zouk, they don't even understand what Zuki is supposed to feel. So they are taking in the pressure for something they hear when they have zero experience.
Hmm.
Why am I saying this? Because I think what you're saying goes back to what is our responsibility as organizers and teachers with how we approach things. Because Brazilians, I'm gonna throw ideas. Who are Brazilians being hired for? By foreigners. Brazilians are not being hired by Brazilians because we were not here.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So who are they being hired by? Oh, the foreigners.
Uh-huh.
What is this organizer's mindset? Do I need to bring a Brazilian because I want to be Brazilian and I want my students to be Brazilian? This is gonna trickle down. Because if they're not Brazilian, then I'm not Brazilian. Is this teacher? Because there's a dichotomy in the person that is taking in the classes and providing the service as well, because that's also a human being. You know what I'm saying? So, like, my question is, this is there. When will us, teachers and organizers, focus on this mindset, on the language that we use to deliver things? Because this is what's trickling down all the way down to all layers in our dance.
Hmm.
So we have the problem of Brazilians being hired by foreigners. And we have a problem that everyone think they need to be Brazilian. But who are all these people? How many if you look at it from a quantity perspective, how many Brazilians think you need to hire Brazilians? All the 10 Brazilians that are in US? But I'm talking about 100 other different cultures that think they need to be Brazilian. So
Right.
there's, you know what I'm saying? So there's part of this responsibility comes from the intention to establish the culture and
Uh-huh.
bring the Brazilian intention into it, like I also do. But what is the language that you use to deliver this message? Is it coming from, if you're not Brazilian, then you're screwed? Or is it coming from, look at this thing that we do in my house? This is so cool.
Hmm.
Your house is
Hmm.
also invited and welcome here. So,
Yeah.
like, the thing that I would be doing is the exact same. But the language that I'm using is not a standard that is if it's not that way then you're screwed. It's a language of possibility, of permission. So is that language coming from above, from those who are these 10 Brazilians that are teaching?
Uh-huh.
But what is also the perception of those that are receiving? And I'm talking about many different cultures, because in US we're talking about so many cultures in one. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah.
So many cultures, so many different family backgrounds and mindset and limiting beliefs and negative emotions. Like there's so much going on. Like what is the perception of those who are watching? Because the idea is, the problem is the idea that we are creating about things, but we cannot know who was responsible. So, for example, some people tell me I'm not being hired because I'm not a Brazilian. I'm like, are you sure? I know many people that rather hire everyone else but a Brazilian because they can be so messy and
Uh-huh.
disorganized and this and
Uh-huh.
that. So, if I look from both sides, we have 10, I'm making it very silly, but we have 10 Brazilians thinking that they need to be Brazilian or less Brazilian to keep on dancing, to keep on being hired. Because if they're not Brazilian, they're not going to be hired because it's what Brazilian wants to buy. So, there is a cycle that is
Yeah.
feeding each other. So, if we try to find someone to blame, and say, okay, we are not going to be able to fix this problem. The only thing that we can do is like, who am I? In which layer of this society am I belonging? How can I shift my perception about how I'm being affected about this? So, for me, the responsibility from organizers and teachers is to have a language that is more inclusive. But it's not only a language, to have a behavior that is more inclusive. Because if you have a language that say everyone can dance, everyone is welcome, but you're selective, you're an arrogant bitch, you're like, if your behavior doesn't match the language, because what there is this mismatch, the trickle down effect is very negative, it's very confusing,
Right.
because what we hear is not what we're seeing in behavior. And I'm gonna have to say we need to go back to the teachers. For example, one thing that I see here I've never seen in Brazil in my time living there, the amount of weekenders, the amount of events that local teachers do for other people that is not their own event, for me, I still feel like this is insane. So this community, they spend more time bringing people from outside and doing their own projects, developing their own methodology.
Yeah.
But who told you that it had to be this way? And maybe there is a like who, it just became this way, we don't know when. We're not gonna solve the problem by going into history. Let me see. Maybe when Jilson started, like we are not gonna, going back into history right now is not gonna give you the root cause. What you can do is
Right.
like, what can we change this? How can we change this right now? How can you, as a teacher, as an organizer, start teaching yourself instead of hiring three other people for weekenders and
Hmm.
fighting for other people and going to Brazil and trying to bring a new Brazilian that's never been into Brazil, because right now has never been to the US or Europe. Like there's this huge desire to keep on bringing new stars, new stars, new stars, new stars.
Yeah.
Like because now an organizer, and I want to support new stars. I'm like, man, be the star yourself.
Hmm.
Like we have this huge desire of globalizing and making this dance international from a financial standpoint, from a professional standpoint, from the language of the dance standpoint. But can you build a house? Can you not be a nomad of every single thing you do? Like, can you not be a nomad? You don't have to be everywhere. Can you focus on the community that you serve right here? Can you serve them? You know what I'm saying? So I would say that for me, there is shared responsibility. I cannot find a way to solve this problem. Like I'm not Brazilian enough, because I have students that no matter how much I tell them,
Hmm.
it's okay. Have you had this situation that you're talking to someone and say, hey, it is okay, I really don't mind. And they're still saying, no, please forgive me. Like, man, I really didn't mean it. And you say, it is okay. And you are really chill. They still feeling guilty about a problem that you are cool. And I'm like, no, no, it's okay, man. I don't even remember what you're talking about at this point because it's so okay. But they're so kind of, man, I'm so sorry I did that for you. So the mindset of the person matters so much more, because even when I go to places that I'm just there to have fun, I'm gonna be seen as a Brazilian. So the complexity is too high at this level
Yeah.
of who is responsible for doing this and that, and I'd rather change the question. I know what the problem is. We have problems that people do not think Brazilian is enough, and we also have problems that Brazilians have turned out to be a lot less Brazilian. If I see from my perspective, I feel like, man, all these Brazilians are looking so European right now.
Is that so? Interesting.
For
Interesting.
me, I
Okay.
look like if the Brazilian movement as a Brazilian, from a Brazilian perspective,
Yeah.
if Brazilian dance had been taught in a Brazilian approach throughout, for me the
Uh-huh.
dance would look and feel different.
Uh-huh.
A little bit of what I see, and I can be wrong, but a little bit of my perception is that Brazilian culture tends to be very welcoming of what's external. The
Uh-huh.
gringos, like there's a worshiping, people pleasing behavior sometime in my culture to what is external,
Uh-huh.
what comes from the US. And this is not everywhere, but this is like it's an underlining behavior to please and like everything else that is other than Brazilian much.
Uh-huh.
So why am I saying this? Because in an intention to also establish and communicate with all of these other cultures, so much of the Brazilian language has been lost. And I know so many artists that actually do not even feel like their move is their own. They feel like my movement is so different from me right now. It's so much more ballet like.
Uh-huh.
It's so much more
Yeah.
tango. It doesn't feel Afro where I actually come from. In this Brazilian particular town that I come from, I have a lot more Afro Latino energy, and I'm
Hmm.
actually dancing so much more ballet, so much more European like.
Hmm.
To the point that you're
That's
gonna see the
interesting.
same teacher that is a Brazilian looking something in a competition Jack and Jill demo, and you look at them dancing on the social, and I feel like, my goodness, what? There's this change, right?
Yeah.
So why am I saying this? Because I feel like it's complex for everyone. I think everyone has given a lot and everyone has lost a lot. And this is not because of Zouk, it's because of who we are.
Yeah.
It's because of our little understanding of ourselves, of what really matters, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It is very complex. It's all so complex. It's so
Yeah,
complex. And it's ever changing. The Yeah, and just the culture, the Zouk culture, the world Zouk culture is
yeah,
ever shifting for
yeah.
sure.
And it's very
Um
rich. Did you hear the ideal social and personal Zouk layer that I talk about?
I don't think so.
Okay, so I'm trying to tackle these problems.
Uh-huh.
Not by talking about the problem. My intention, like when I come here, I keep on talking about the problem. If you talk about the problem, there is this almost this anxiety
Yeah.
about like, we're doomed. Like there's no like there's nothing we can. This is the feeling when I start talking about the problem. The energy on the problem makes the problems bigger. It puts the problem on stage.
Hmm.
And my intention, which I keep on telling people, wait, I think my give me just a second. I just
It's
need to
okay.
plug my charger. I just realized my charger was not plugged.
Yeah, no worries.
So I know we're talking about the problem, and when we talk from the problem perspective, it is complex.
Right.
When we talk from the solution perspective, it is simple.
Well,
It's
well,
simplified.
tell me what's the
You know what I'm
simple.
saying?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna shift because if we talk about the problem, it's gonna feel like we cannot fix this because we cannot fix the problem. We can only do what we can do for ourselves right now, and this will fix the problem. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Before you do, real quick, just I have it written down here in case people don't know. What is NLP? You mentioned that earlier. Can you just say what that is briefly?
Cool, cool, cool. And then we talked about the ideal Zook. Okay,
And what's about the solution? That's like a little
the solution.
commercial for this. Okay, go ahead.
Nelly. Psst.
Yeah.
NLP means neuro linguistic programming.
Hmm.
It's not natural language programming. It has nothing to do with coding, which many
Yeah.
people think because there's NLP there too.
Yep.
So neuro linguistic programming. I'm gonna talk about it as a tool, just to
Hmm.
simplify. So let's say that NLP is a tool to understand how the mind works, how communication works, and how can you generate results and create success in whatever it is that you're trying to build. So NLP is going to help us understand human behavior and mental patterns. And it's also going to support us to change those patterns by reprogramming our mind, understanding that we need to realign unconscious and conscious mind. So I don't like to talk about NLP much as a tool because NLP is not one tool, it's an approach. It's like
Hmm.
philosophy. Philosophy, if you cannot say philosophy is one thing, philosophy is a way to see the world. It's an approach. It's a collective of principles. And those principles, you have many tools that can be represented by those principles. So I like to see NLP as this collective of principles that will help you understand the human mind, the human behavior, and how can we generate results understanding how we work, you know? And if you go inside of this, some people call NLP a pattern interrupt. So what is a pattern interrupt? Everything we do has a pattern. All our problems, they have patterns. We are not that spontaneous. Like in this physical, biological body, there are patterns for everything. For losing hair, for growing hair, for finding love, for buying a t-shirt. That is an internal pattern because our system, our mind needs to simplify how we do things, so we can continue doing in an automated mode and save your energy. Because it
Hmm.
needs you to save your energy, right? So there are patterns. Not every patterns that we have in the mental, emotional, physical, spiritual level, they are healthy. And the reason why they're not healthy is because they're not being updated. Let's just say like this. Most patterns, when they are created in a moment, they are there to serve you. So I'm going to talk about simple pattern. As a kid, I tried to speak up, and every time I'm about to speak up, my brother jumps in forward and he dances, and everyone start clapping, and I just feel like, oh, I better be quiet. No one wants to hear me.
Yeah.
Maybe at the moment it was beautiful. The brother wants to do something. Maybe the moment it worked. Okay,
Yeah.
it was useful, whatever, however we qualify it. But that turns into an internal pattern of I don't have space, I cannot speak up, I don't have a voice, whatever everyone else says is more important than me. They're not going to clap for me anyways. No one's going to stop and look at me anyway. So I just better not make any effort. And this is going to develop a collective of behaviors, mindset inside of you, okay? That little scene. So
Hmm.
this is one example. We talk about NLP as a pattern interrupt because no matter what the pattern is, it can be a tick. The pattern can be a physiological pattern.
Hmm.
Every pattern can be interrupted, and a new pattern that is more updated, it's healthier and empowered because it's updated to your current state, can be created. So I like to think of NLP as this pattern interrupt, this collective of principles that is going to help you understand how the mind, how the behavior, how the physiology, how our communication works, understanding the patterns that are already existing within us, how our mind process things, and it's going to be able to generate a pattern interrupt so you can update yourself. That's why they call neuro-linguistic programming, because neuro is this nervous system, biological aspect of us that functions in certain ways.
Hmm.
Linguistic, because there's all this abstract aspect of the understanding, the perception, interpretation, thought that is as physical as it is not for us, it's not as tangible. And programming, because once it's ingrained, it's repeated. It goes into an automation state. So the
Hmm.
programming needs to change. You can continue automate it. You're gonna continue automating it. You will, because this is how the body functions. But we just need to keep on upgrading as you need it, like your identity or what you think you want out of life or your goals, anything, how you do things. So this is the work. This is not the only tool, let's say like this, because I think it's easier. It's not the only process that I work with, but it's a big component of how I see life, and lots of tools exist within NLP. And because NLP is always focused on the idea of success, how can we generate results? How can things become more efficient and generate results, whatever those things are? Um, it's always being upgraded as well. Because if NLP does not progress and upgrade, then it's no longer NLP because it has to represent the thing it's actually saying. So there are tools, for example, there were tools that were more used inside of an NLP program that no longer are being used because human mind, human biology, human genetics has shifted, and those tools they do no longer represent something that functions. So now there are new tools that come in. So it's this constant updating understanding of what is needed to create a shift that will cause people to feel more empowered, more congruent, more aligned, you know?
Okay. And so it's like changing your internal habits. I would say,
Yeah.
or like you say, your programming, but like having more control or influence over
Yeah.
um, your own programming, right? Is that
Absolutely. So you can
I
see
see?
as like a combination of tools and principles.
Uh huh.
The NLP is this combination of tools and principles that will help you to shift what's not working to what's working. If I
I
were
see.
to make it very simple, it's a combination of tools and principles. It's going to help you to shift from what's not working and not serving you to what's working. And this can only happen in the personal level. I cannot NLP like a group of people at the same time. Like NLP is going to function differently for each individual because it's literally a personal approach. So it's literally per person. Even if I'm saying the exact same thing, so many people will hear this conversation. People are going to hear this completely different depending on the beliefs they have, the values they have, what's important to them, where their focus is. They're going to hear this differently. Some people are going to think we're talking against them. Some people are going to think we're talking exactly what they think. Some people are going to
Hmm.
think we're talking nonsense. Like people will interpret this, right? So NLP works in a person. How you work, what's working, how can it be better for you and for others, you know?
Okay. All
It's
right.
really
Okay.
cool.
It sounds really cool. Yeah. Yeah. So the simple solution. The simple solution.
Okay, so before I talk about the simple solution, I'm going to talk about the ideal, social, and personal.
Okay.
And then I'm going to go into the simple solution. So, one of the things, like there's moving and grooving, right? I am creating different things because I think there are different layers on how can we support people in this process. Because deep inside, I don't care about Zouk, I care about the human being, because if Zouk
Mm-hmm.
dies, you still exist. So it's this level of attachment, non-attachment to the thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Actually, I was teaching at Paris for Mac. Alex de Carvalho invited me to be coaching the Mac instructors.
Oh,
Um,
congratulations. Uh-huh.
yeah, so last year I was at Mac because now I'm doing coaching, mindset, bringing this perspective to professional Zouk dancers and Zouk teachers. And I put this meme there for them when they say art sometimes is this beautiful relationship between giving all the fuck and not giving a fuck at all. Like it's this interesting relationship about I care so much and I don't give a damn. Like it's literally this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I care so much if you guys understand what I'm saying. I don't care at all if you don't get what I'm saying. Like it's this combination. It's this Buddhism approach to everything is and nothing is. At the same time. So because of this, I keep on creating different layers, different ways to communicate my intention. So the intention lens. For me, the the ideal social and personal Zouk, this is a framework that I use to explain what the how can you dance Zouk, how can you teach Zouk, and how you can think of Zouk. So you can think, dance, and teach Zouk in the ideal. You can think, dance, and teach the Zouk in the social. You can think, dance, and teach in the personal.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And you can teach in one and dance in the other one. And this is very common. We see this happening. So the basically these three layers that I call the three Zouk layers, it seems like it's helping a lot of people to create spaciousness, patience, forgiveness, like curiosity. Like I for some reason this framework is really giving people a sense of belonging. I have people that come to me and they cry, they feel like, wow, I just feel like I'm back. Like I can do this, it's not that hard. And it's really beautiful. So basically saying, like, from a dance perspective, okay, so ideal Zouk represents the Zouk that we see most commonly in the marketing world, that we think it's all that Zouk is, that is much
Mm-hmm.
more focused on the professional aspect of it. It
Right.
is focused on precision, it's focused on efficiency, it's focusing on the challenge of movement, on artistry. So there's a challenge, high level standard to what the Zouk is supposed to look like, feel like, and how it's supposed to be executed. So it's much more focused on precision. That's what defines the ideal Zouk. Okay, and then there's this layer, and I'm being simplistic because I think that's enough. Then we go into this layer of social Zouk. And
Mm-hmm.
social Zouk is this dance, is this expression of the dance that is focused on connection, on expression, on musicality, on sharing an experience with someone. It's about you and me and what we create, you know? And this can come through precision or not. It can come in through many different ways. But it's more focused on the exchange than on how the thing is executed itself. While ideal Zouk is like there's a specific way to make it, to do it, or to have that be. Then
Yeah.
we have the personal, which is this layer of the dance that for me represents when you forget Zouk, you forget the person in front of you and you just go inward and it becomes about you. This is absolutely only about me. And it can happen the way you're thinking, the way you're teaching, or the way you're dancing. So if I use the dancing, I'm gonna use dancing because dancing is easier to understand. I can think of how I'm supposed to execute a basic step in place. And then I can think of my frame, where my hand's supposed to be, where I have more connection, filling in all the gap and giving a little bit of, I can go ideal. So I can execute that movement there. But I can also go into that basic step and like just be dancing in front of you and we're jamming. We didn't even touch yet. We're probably in the wrong flag, but we're dancing. Then sometime you point and it starts and maybe becomes more ideal and it loose. But you feel like the exchange, it rings a bell. You feel like we're locked in, like something's happening between us. Even if it doesn't look ideal, it's still taking from ideal. So otherwise, the communication would not happen. But the focus is somewhere else. The
Mm-hmm.
execution is somewhere else. Another expression of the social. I'm gonna give another expression of the social. I go to dance with someone that has a completely different body or is in a completely different mental emotional state. And everything that I've been told to do in my class is not gonna work here. And because you have something called human sensory acuity, you have sensitivity, sensibility to another human being, you automatically choose to approach that movement differently, even if you're not taught. So you say, okay, maybe I'm not gonna touch in the back. I'm just gonna hold the hands and I'm gonna do the basics here. Or maybe instead of having a full body connection, I'm gonna do slightly different. So
Hmm.
social, there are many layers of what social looks like, but the relationship becomes the reason why you're making certain decisions to on how you dance or do not dance.
Hmm.
If you go into the personal, I'm using the basic step in place. The basic step in place can be executed in completely different ways.
Right.
Then we go into the personal. One example of personal, please forgive me. One example of personal, I'm too sweaty. I'm just gonna give my hands because man, I'm too sweaty right now, so I'm actually not gonna fully embrace. You didn't make that decision based on idea. You didn't make that decision based on personal. You're just feeling, man, maybe I stink today. Who never
Yep.
feel like you stink today? I'm just gonna close my arms, and dance a little bit shorter. I feel like we all human beings, man. Go to Zuke Max and you feel like, man, I'm just gonna keep a distance here because I'm not sure I'm smelling good. So like whatever that
Yeah.
scenario. So I'm going really personal, just to make it very extreme. But there are certain decisions that we do on how we execute the dance that is based on this. Or there could be like, I saw this person dancing with someone else and I'm feeling neck pain. Maybe I'm not going to give them an opportunity to actually get my neck. I'm just going to hold in my hand because I'm actually calculating on my own personal safety, whatever the story is in my mind, how I want to approach that dance because I saw them dancing with someone and that person got hurt and I'm actually having pain where that person got hurt. So maybe I'm just going to, it's absolutely personal, the way you
Hmm.
executed that movement. Um, of course, these are not, these things are going to transition.
Hmm.
Well, I've been bringing a lot of attention to people that how we approach the dance in the mindset. I can approach the dance with a mindset of we're doing this for Zouk, and it goes more into ideal. Let's solve the problem for Zouk. Like let's how can we make for Zouk Zouk has can grow. Like there's this huge desire for people for Zouk to become as big as bachata and salsa. I'm like, man, Zouk doesn't care. The only person that cares is you, but it's okay. Zouk doesn't care how big it becomes. But there's like, because we need to make Zouk. I was like, who said that? Who said that every social partner dance has to have a certain, like, we're already attending to another standard here. So now there's this huge, let's make Zouk known. Like, who said that? Just cook your cake for your friends and your family. You don't have to make a business because you cook a good cake. So, like, so we have this idea of what a social dance is supposed to be if it's accomplished.
Yeah.
So because of this mindset, we're trying to make Zouk popular and achieve the masses. I'm like, who are we competing with? We already have people. The thing will grow. People will
Hmm.
more you do consistently, more it grows. But either for professional reasons, so people can live out of that financially, for whatever the personal motivation is, and that's where I'm gonna go the personal. Why everyone is wanting things is because of the personal, but we don't see it. We're just going in the same place. But it's here. We can talk about the Zouk. How can we make Zouk more? Zouk more? Zouk doesn't give a damn. But okay, let's talk about this external thing. So I can approach something thinking of Zouk. I can approach something thinking of the collective. How can we be
Hmm.
more inclusive? How can we make sure people are safe and comfortable? How can we make sure people are feeling comfortable in their bodies? How can we make sure we avoid all the sexual harassment, all the situations that we have going on from society into dance? We can approach the solution from a social perspective, okay? And then we can go back into the person. We can approach the things about how am I showing up? What am I actually doing? How am I contributing or not contributing for what I'm seeing? How is it me putting a penny and taking a penny gonna affect the overall thing? And there goes me. When I think about ideal, social, and personal, I talking I talk that if you can already see this in the dance, that you can dance ideally, you can dance socially, and you can dance in your personal, and there's no right and wrong. These things will happen. There's no shaming or blaming. There's no this standard that we live, this ideal standard. It's a problem that we have in society. It's not in Zouk. The perfectionism is in society, and it's just reflecting in every other layer, even in the social. When we dance socially, now connection has to dissolve so much that we're so in sync that we lost ourselves in time space. If I don't achieve this nirvana tantric experience of dissolving myself into someone else in 2 hours and I thought I just blinked, then I haven't done social dancing because the perfectionism It's not only in ideal, it's everywhere because it's in human state of mind right now. You know what I'm saying? So everything is impregnated. There's nothing wrong with ideal. Ideal doesn't have to be perfectionist to the point that it isn't healthy, and it's still going to be ideal. It's what I call the Zouk athletes, not the Zouk artists. They are Zouk athletes. They are taking this dance to another level in the
Hmm.
challenge of body, motion, gravity, physics. It's a full whole dedication to the art and the craft.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do. You can be a full dedicated artist, dance athlete, as I call them, and still not be perfectionist. Perfectionism doesn't mean ideal. Perfectionism is a behavior, it's a mental state. And it's very much impregnated in the ideal. It's a lot more associated with the ideal, and it's passing all these other layers. So I could talk about this from a teaching standpoint. How can you approach these three layers from a teaching standpoint? As a teacher, what is the language you use when you are communicating to these three different layers, because they are coexisting in class? There are
Hmm.
people that are coming to class because they want to compete or they want to progress in their lives and they want to see this progress through dance, through whatever. Okay? There are people that want to be teachers. So there are people more leaning more towards the ideal. The biggest chunk of people, they just want to get the fuck out of the lives they're living and do something else and have fun and grow and whatever in a very regular way. Most people are actually in the social.
Hmm.
The personal will come through because people don't see that. The personal is the hardest to talk about sometimes, but it's also where I see the biggest solution being part of. So when I talk about these three layers, I could talk about in three different approaches. How are we thinking? How are we dancing? How are we teaching? But right now, the one that I talk the most is the dance itself. How does the dance look and feel? And just knowing that your basic step can look and feel different, and that's okay. It doesn't have to look ideal. Give people permission to know I don't have to be Brazilian. I don't have to be ballet. I don't have to be European. I can just be me and exchange this with someone else in front of me. And it is okay if I forget everything and I get off time. It's okay if I go personal and I start jamming to something and I forgot to step. I forgot about you. I forgot about the technique. I actually just got lost in the music because I love that song so much. And
Hmm.
I, for a moment, I just got out of the connection. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with going inside of you and losing yourself in your own internal space. That's also a personal activity. So the reason why I'm saying this is because when you talk about solutions,
Hmm.
um, this is a little framework that I use to talk about what are we trying to solve. What exactly are we trying to solve? We're going to discuss this in different ways, depending, and I'm using these layers. Whose Zook problem am I solving? Because people that go to have fun in and out, they don't care. Only the very committed, highly in the ideal, people that are working for Zook, only us are very much caring about this. It's the pressure is impregnating the other layers because it will, and that's where I say there's a responsibility to those that are leaders in any
Hmm.
shape or form. But who truly cares? I had the same conversation with someone else. I had two students here, two or three students, and they're like, Nelly, I don't care. I don't care if Zouk is with the hip to the left, if that's Lambada. And she's saying, with all my respect, I'm just going there to have fun. I like the music. I was like, okay, they don't care because they don't work for Zouk.
Right.
Does
Right.
does Zouk work for them? Like it's just everyone is trying to be a leader in Zouk right now. Everyone wants to be contributing for. Everyone has a hero in the triangle trauma. We have too many heroes. Everyone wants to save something. I don't know what I just save yourself. Go personal. What can you do to save yourself? Zouk will get fixed. We just have too many people saving something they don't even know what is. No one can define. And this is why I say that the solution is simpler if we approach it from a personal level.
Hmm.
There's still complexity to everything, but I think we very much know at this point in life, Adam, what we need to live a life of fulfillment and a healthy life. But we just don't do it. That's where coaching comes through. It's the
Hmm.
accountability and that push, like just do what you said you would. Sleep an amount of hours that is good for you, maintain your body, exercising, make sure you have important connection, emotional, make sure like we know the basics of living. Every Instagram quote has it. Secrets of life. Five things. Like just do the five. If you
Yeah.
get a
Yeah.
list of 15, do pick five and do five, you'll be happy. You're gonna pick the five for you. So it's much simpler on a personal level. And focusing on solution for me is let's start talking about what the problem is. We understand the problem.
Hmm.
If we break down the problem, we're going to have hundreds of problems because
Hmm.
people see the problem differently. Even the same problem we're talking about, people think of the same problem as if they're different problems.
Hmm.
I went to Mac. Oh my gosh, here I go. Alex de Carvalho called me and said, Nelly, I want you to create this module for them based on, uh, what was it? Quality of life of the professional Zouk dancer, Zouk teacher.
Uh-huh.
I was like, okay, the quality of life of the professional, like that was such a broader play. I love this broad stuff because I can be very abstract. I was like, this is awesome. Then I
Hmm.
started talking to them about what the problem is. And people give me a problem like yours. Brazilian people keep on getting hired, non-Brazilian people keep on not getting hired by events. And then we will start discussing. And I got every person to discuss what the problem is. I
Uh-huh.
swear to God, inside of the same class, we actually had 12 different problems. The problem
Right.
here is the same. But
Right.
what the problem truly is, if I say, okay, so we have this, what do you think is the real problem here? And then someone goes like, oh, that's because Brazilians think too much of themselves. Cool, like one problem.
Oh wow.
Oh,
Okay.
that's because organizers, they just don't know what they're doing. They just hire the first person they see on the marketing kit. I had 12 problems under the same problem. So
Hmm.
every time I ask what the problem really is, it goes personal.
Uh-huh.
That's why I'm so passionate about personal development and personal growth. Because the problem we were trying to solve was it was something similar to this. It's why is it so hard to live out of finance? Why certain type of people get more visibility than others?
Hmm.
Why do I need to be doing Instagram? So the problem looks the same. But when I ask what the problem really is, I already have 15 different problems.
Hmm.
I was like, I cannot help you guys solve all the. I cannot help. I have a list. I use this list. I have a list of all the problems that came out of this one problem. And I was like,
Uh,
because people perceive the problem differently. So
yeah.
that's why if we go into perception, that's where the solution is. If you want to focus on one thing, what is your perception of the things you're seeing? How would you like to change that or not? How does that match your life and your behavior? You'll see that things will change
Hmm.
because we could not solve the problem. I did this dynamic there, and there's like, there's no fucking, we are doomed. We cannot
Hmm.
solve this problem here because we have problems, too many directions to tackle. I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
More personal it is, simpler it becomes. It becomes complex in a different layer, in a different level, in a more mental emotion. Like when you need to stop and see yourself, it is deep. It is not complex. That's what I'm saying. Like the problem is not complex, it's deep. There is a high, and I say this with all my love. There's a lot of healing that we need in our society. We are
Yeah.
looking at through the Zook lens, but there's a lot of healing opportunity for us
Hmm.
right now. A lot of healing opportunity into like, what do I come from in my life? Like, what is this life that I'm living? We've been given an opportunity to live in a world where this question is being asked.
Yeah.
And like, what does really matter to me, like, about this? Um, and when we get into this question, it's not really complex. It's just intense and deep. It's not complex. It's not overwhelmed because of quantities. It's just that you need to sit through with that one thing.
Yeah.
The book of the moment, you guys, the one thing.
Oh yeah.
This is for
Yeah.
productivity, but the one thing. Like, so I keep on saying that solutions are not really complex. When you go to the person and people choose themselves, and knowing that by choosing themselves, they will start choosing others with so much more love and kindness and honesty. And we're gonna snap out. We're all gonna break down. We're all gonna have an emotional response that we're not proud of, but we will understand that this is human. And instead of shaming and blaming when we are not at the best, we're gonna understand that that's also part of the process. We're gonna embrace it with a forgiveness attitude, as I say. But
Hmm.
when you go into the personal, it's not really complex. It's just deep. It's just more intense than how we're used to approaching life. Like you don't have 100 problems. You have a few.
Hmm.
And these a few, we call them root cause in the work that I do. I'm gonna show it to you. We say that we have this is Zook right now, and all the problems. Like it's a bunch of problems
Hmm.
spilling all over the place. No one knows what to do. But if you're going to keep asking, keep asking, keep asking, you're gonna go into the person,
Yeah.
and that person has a problem, and it's a one problem. Like I just don't feel. I'm gonna make it deep already. I just don't feel like I'm good enough.
Hmm.
I just don't feel like I'm. I've ever been loved. I don't know if I've ever experienced love. And if I actually notice all my actions, they all come from this core wound.
Yeah.
Everything that if I actually look at my habits, my behaviors, my seeking for attention, me trying to prove myself, me making more videos than I actually want to do for Instagram, me trying to go all over as an artist to try to find a beautiful location to record a very complex movement to post on Instagram because this is all me trying to seek validation to see if people keep on choosing me.
Yeah.
So like if you go at the core wounds, they are deep, but they are not complex. You will look at them, each of us in our own, and we have so much more therapy nowadays. Like the work that I do is one for you might be tantra, might be plant medicine, it might be like
Hmm.
you have the freedom to find the tool, but until you have the courage to ask the question and get out of Zouk issues, we're not gonna have really solve Zouk problems. So yeah, this is all the conversation talk about the solution. I don't think solution is complex. It's just deep.
Just deep. So fascinating. Yeah, just the I yeah. Man, there's so much to that. There's so much to even just the little idea that you dropped of what if this is just wanting to feel like you're enough, right? Because Zook has that promise in it with via like Jack and Jill's like, oh, well, if I just get to the next level, then I'll be enough, and then people will
Yeah,
want to dance with me, people will like me, and then you get to
yeah,
that level, and then you're like, well, maybe it's the next level, you know what I mean? And
yes,
then so you see this pursuit around the
yeah.
world, chasing all of these competitions to be enough, you know?
Yeah. And this for artists, this is for everyone. It's
Yeah.
artists fighting to be in places. It's artists that are traveling for free, working for free, and you feel like, oh, they are getting if that's when the complexity comes, when you try to understand someone's reality. Oh, maybe Brazilians are teaching everywhere. I'm like, yeah, but you don't know what they're sacrificing to do that. Do you really think they're making money or growing? Some of them are doing out of desperation. Many of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
They are working for free, living in absolutely poor conditions.
Hmm.
Their physical body is absolutely destroyed. The
Yeah.
amount of and the amount of friends that I have doesn't matter if they're Brazilian or not. The amount of friends that I have, teachers that I know that are so screwed physically, but they continue pushing because they believe. There's a belief. If I don't do it this much, no one will want it. I'm like, what if you model the opposite? The
Right.
life is the world of models, but all of us in all these different layers. I can see what I would call some mental emotional patterns in the Zouk scene, which
Hmm.
makes us unique and different from all other ones, right? So the desire for connection, the desire for validation. So there are levels of this everywhere in life, and I can see these patterns because all my clients nowadays, not only my students, I have dance students and I have dance clients. So coaching clients that nowadays all of them comes from dance,
Hmm.
and they come from dance because they don't come from me for lateral. Like I can stop the conversation. I choose how deep I allow the situation to go. Like I have this awareness, right? But we need to work on us as people because everyone, my students, my clients, if you ask the question 3 times, why are you here? This is a very basic coaching exercise. Anyone that becomes a coach, they learn. First thing that they learn, you're gonna do the 7 layers why or the five
Hmm.
layers why. You're just gonna ask why is that important for you?
Hmm.
Oh, dancing for me is important because I have fun. Why is having fun in the dance important for you? Oh, it's important because actually my life is boring. Why is that important? If you keep on asking, like deeply, like man, I just feel like there's no like. If you really go to core, people meet. We're very much similar. Our problems
Hmm.
are not that different. We share very common problems. And in Zuka, I see the patterns of the problems that are very similar. From talking to artists, from observing behaviors, the idea that Jack and Jill is gonna give you some results, and it does
Hmm.
because many people believe in it, so they actually generate the results out of that.
Yeah.
So it does. But is it long lasting? Is it what we call in NVC? Do you know NVC, nonviolent
No.
communication?
Oh, yes, 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 yes. Haven't heard the acronym, but I know. But for the people who may not know, yeah, can you summarize what that is?
Yeah, so nonviolent communication, it's a form of empathetic, compassionate communication. It's a structure of language, a principle, a way of thinking of life that supports you to connect with people from heart to heart. Like
Hmm.
you're allowing yourself to see people and receive people, see yourself and receive yourself, and see the collective and receive the collective as an individual, as a person just like you. So you humanize. It's a very humanizing way of seeing and speaking. It's
Mm-hmm.
different than NLP. I like to say that NVC is the feminine expression, is the feminine communication tool that I use.
Mm-hmm.
NLP is the masculine, and there's power in both of them. So in
Yeah.
NVC, this is my interpretation. This is how I use it and how I see it. In NVC, I'm trying to receive and allow something to be in the moment. NLP, my intention is to transform, impact, and inspire and shock. And like there's this sense of like, woof, it's transformational.
Mm-hmm.
So it's moving forward. NVCs, it's right here. Okay. And we need both of these two things. Why am I bringing this? There was a point for the NVC.
Um.
Oh,
of-
about getting the results in Jack and Jill. Because people
yes.
believe they're gonna get the results in Jack and Jill if they just by doing Jack and Jill they get more dances. So this is the
Yeah.
biggest one of the biggest reason people that dance. So they are trying to achieve look at this. They are trying to achieve a social result by going to the ideal
Mm-hmm.
because there is a connection between these layers, right? So they want results in social, but they are using a tactics that is in ideal to try to create a social effect. And this works. It works because life is like that. But we've already created a mindset that people that go to Jack and Jill, they get visibility. And of course, this works because we've been repeating this enough and this functions. And there is some truth to that.
Yeah.
That's not the only way. And there's some truth to that. Why am I mentioning this? In NVC, we have the habit of saying, like, when you're making a request, when you're requesting something, is that request um, a request or is this an imposition that is disguised? When you say like, hey, do you want to do you want to dance with me? Is that truly a request or is that an obligation disguised of a request? When you're asking a request but the intention behind it doesn't give an opportunity for the other person to agree or disagree, it's not a request.
Oh, I see.
You're imposing. It just comes as a question. It ends as a question, but it's not truly a question in the core of where the question came from. So when I ask people to dance and I say, would you like to dance? It's not a request. It's a disguise because when people receive a no, they do not consider no as a possibility. The no is an unacceptable. We have so many problems with no, saying no to dance. Can I even say no? For whatever reason, for all these core wounds, can I reject someone? Will I be rejected? So the core wounds cause the questions to not be a real question. It's not a question because there's no freedom on the response that you receive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But in NVC, we keep on saying one thing. Um, when you ask requests, disguised requests, they are not really requests, but you pretend they are requests and you get what you want. The other person is saying yes to you, not because they want to, but because they feel like that's all they can say. They can only say yes. They can feel it's not a request even though you're asking them to say yes.
Right.
There's no energy of a request. So the person already feels obligated to say what they think you want to receive. Why am I saying this? When someone gives you a yes, you get an immediate result. In the moment, you got what you wanted. So maybe you say yes to a dance and you get in the moment, yes, let's dance. Maybe you didn't want to dance with that person and you said yes. And then you build some, let's pretend that I'm the person saying yes when I didn't want to, but I know that the request is not a request. It's a request in disguise. So I say
Right.
yes, and that little bit of resentment built in my heart.
Right.
But the result you see in the moment doesn't match this little resentment. The result in the moment looks like a result. It's an immediate result. But
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna say yes many times. At some point that this beautiful heart is full of have said yes to requests that were never a request.
Mm-hmm.
And this thing is gonna explode.
Mm-hmm.
So if you try to look at life based on immediate results, you're gonna have a misconception about what success is. And I'm gonna bring business mindset because I love business growth and this is all the same for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you look at businesses and you see like, oh, because I did a workshop and people signed up, I made money right now. This means people want to continue taking. When you run a business, you need to have a long-term mindset into it. You are planting the seed, and even if a leaf come out of it tomorrow, you know that you are letting the roots grow deep You might not see a damn result for a long time, but you keep on believing it because it takes this time for the seed to start growing. So
Right.
when people want immediate results to the things, NVC wise, it feels like a success. It's an immediate sensation of a result of a yes, but what you're actually collecting is a very strong punishment that is going to show up over time. So it's not this seed is not going to turn out to be a tree because you're poisoning. You put the seed there, but all the time you open it up to see if it's there, and it's like,
Hmm.
oh, look at it, it's almost coming, and then you just pour some water to see if it make. You're trying to make everything happen in the moment. This desperation that we have, this hamster wheel that we live in, we
Yeah.
see this in Zoom. And I'm bringing this to you. It's because I still think most of us dance and make choices thinking of immediate results. We're not building a life of sustainability. We're not building a Zouk that is sustainable.
Hmm.
We are building a Zouk that is trying to give results right now, both for dance, for teachers, for organizers. We want to see the results right now from a financial standpoint, from a progress standpoint, but we are not building a movement that is sustainable, which is where I'm looking to. I don't care if I don't see results. People tell me, Nelly, no one is actually going to take this class. It's going to take two people, three people. And you saw there, I wasn't moving and grooving. I cried because there were that many people. But I know that I'm going to be showing up for this, for two people, three people, for a long time.
Yeah.
But even though I might cry in the moment because I'm human and I have like, I wish it was more. I wish
Hmm.
more people did it. My connection is with the end result. I don't care how much time it's gonna take for me to be misunderstood, for my idea to land, because I'm playing the long run game
Yeah.
in a business and in my life. And I think in Zook, they're all of this is all mindset because there are too many pieces of this. Each people, that's why I say it's mindset because so, I say so many things and so many of them I feel like they're so precious, but each one is gonna land for one person. So like for some people, can you just start playing the long game? Can you play a game of sustainability? Does Zook even belong to a sustainable path in your life?
Right.
Because if Zook doesn't belong to a sustainable path in your own personal life, does it really matter how much you're caring about it today?
Hmm.
Does it really matter how much big of a deal you are making about Zouk Lambada dancing 2, dancing 3, dancing 4, insert the number 5? Does it really even matter?
Right.
What is this that you are avoiding to look in your own sustainable life that is causing you to grip in here? So that's what I'm saying. Like we look at Jack and Jill. It is not just in Jack and Jill. It's everywhere. We're making decisions in the moment because we want results in the moment because of core wounds that we have because we cannot sit with the truth because the truth is deep and it hurts, but it heals. Actually, when we face the shadow, it heals so much faster.
Yeah.
It hurts. It hurts more than you believe. Sometimes it's gonna hurt to do healing work. Healing work is all like, hey, I'm healed. Like healing work sometimes like spending those 3 days with yourself feeling damn, it's a shit show right here. Like and
Yeah.
after you feel the nervous system let it go. It lets go because it knows it's not you. It's just there to pass through.
Yeah.
So we don't need more people dancing zouk. Like this is I felt like this is all. And if we do need more people dancing Zouk, I invite you today in your journey with Zouk to choose how much responsibility you really want to take for this dance.
Hmm.
Like sometimes what we need to do is say, you know what, this matters to me, but I can let other people handle it. Like how many of us need to be solving this problem right now? Man, just go to get some sleep. I keep on saying, you think you have a problem, but you're just not sleeping enough. I keep on telling this all the time. Like
Yeah.
your hormones are just all over the place. Like this has nothing to do. Like you do not suck at this lateral. You just do not eat enough nutrition. Like just go have some food.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing wrong with a capacity to learn. Your problem is like in your capacity to put yourself first. You're putting Zouk first. It's not about Zouk. Show up as Zouk at the capacity that Zouk fulfills. Zouk and you.
Hmm.
Otherwise, just use the fruits. We are not all organizers. Like I feel like we have in Zouk a very beautiful, committed crowd. We have people into self development. I feel like there's this very special thing in Zouk that I love. I
Hmm.
feel like we have conversations that are so deep and we connect in higher levels. Like we attract certain types of crowd and mindset and openness. But
Mhm.
everyone is trying to be a leader here, and I'm saying, man, just choose which aspects of your life do you really want to lead,
Yeah.
and act on. You know what I'm saying? Act on those with love, like with true intention, and let yourself be held. Let other people give to you, do for you.
Wow. Yeah. There is so much there. There is so much. There is so much in what you're
I know
describing.
this
There's
is,
so much. Oh my
and you
gosh.
need to stop me, because I've been doing this inside of myself for so long
Yeah.
that I feel like people are like, Nelly, how long have you been thinking about this? Like, how many years of reflection? Like, well, I'm a philosophy teacher since I'm 16. So I've been thinking for a while.
Oh, for sure, for sure. You know, I mean, like there was one thing that I always keep coming back to when I see some of these fights break out within the scene of just like, just like you're saying, the expectation and perspective sort of coming, mixing, and it's like, in 10, 15 years, are you really gonna? Does it matter really? Like if you were how you're dancing with your partner, if you had a clean lateral or not, it's like no, you're just
Yes.
connecting, you're exploring yourselves. It's just
Yeah.
yeah, it's a dance. It's
The
a
dance,
dance.
like, this is it's something in the scheme of an entire life.
Yeah.
Like, I had someone approach me and say, Nelly, I cannot handle Zouk. This person, if he listens to this, he's not a Zouk dancer. He's a
Uh huh.
salsa dancer. He says, I cannot stand Zouk.
Uh huh. Why? Why?
Can't. And I was like, why? It's like, because it's this arrogant place where everyone is trying to make this such a big deal.
Oh.
And I was like, and he's like, I just feel like Zouk is like, it's so annoying. It's just so annoying. Like, I'm so tired of these people with all these stars and this la la la. Just do the thing. Like, and I was like, wow, this is the level of I care about so much and I don't give it a damn. And I was
Yeah.
looking at him, and I was talking this way, right? Because
Uh
right
huh.
now the way I'm talking is like super deep. And he said, I just cannot handle Zouk people. And Zouk people is just like la 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 la. They just don't do the thing. And I was like, man, that's it. So I dropped and I jumped into him like, let this shit go, man. What do you want to do? Let's do this. So like, because it is this transition,
It's for sure. For
you
sure.
know? And I was like, wow. It's like, I cannot handle this place. You guys are too annoying, too boring. That is so true. Fuck that shit. Let's do something else. Like, I'm annoyed with myself right now. And then he understands. I'm like, right now, Zouk is just the scheme. In the end, this is about life for me. It's really not about Zouk.
Yeah.
It makes sense. And deep inside is not even about life because I'm a very spiritual person
Uh huh.
and I go into the Buddhism. Like, anyways, I'm gonna get this part for another day, but I tend to go into another direction into life where things matter, but they do not really matter. Everything
Yeah.
that matters, it's a choice, and everything that's a choice, I can choose differently. So I literally choose how I live this life. So I have this mindset inside of me, and I felt like I'm doing this for Zouk, and then I'm doing this for life. I'm like, I'm not even doing this, man. I'm just passing by,
Yeah. Yeah. Like just passing through. Yeah.
passing through. And chose to pick this activity to engage my physical body. But deep in the spiritual level, none of this matter. Not even what I'm doing here right now.
God. It must be so jarring especially because I started with salsa and bachata, and yeah, with salsa and bachata, it's like you just like you show up to a bar, you dance a couple songs, you know what I mean? Maybe you have a couple drinks and you go home. And then when I discovered Zouk, then there was a lot of like find yourself, you're connected, it's like there's like so much to it that it must be, especially now if someone coming into Zouk, like I'm sure it's a lot. It's a
Yeah,
lot.
it is. Like, they're like, what? And that's because we teach ideal. Like,
Yeah.
there is an aspect of Zouk that can be taught. Like, I really believe there's a complexity to the dance, okay?
Oh, for
And
sure. Yeah.
I really believe there's a complexity to the dance. I really believe yes, it requires certain commitment, it requires certain practice, it requires certain awareness. I do
Yeah.
believe Zouk is already this, okay? So I'm not gonna say it can just be fun. No, nothing in
No,
life is
there's a
just
lot
gonna
to
be
it.
fun. Some things
Yeah.
are gonna be challenging, and can you sit through it? So like, can you relate to that? So I don't like to say everything in Zouk is fun. Like, I love when things are complicated and they make me think, and we have this whole Zouk nerds thing because of how brainy we can get about this whole stuff. Like, man, yeah. It's like, oh my gosh, Zouk nerds, like you guys are so annoying. Like this guy from South is like, I cannot handle you guys. It's like, I know, how can I handle myself?
I
So,
yeah.
but there's a social way to teach Zouk that I think is really cool.
Yeah.
And this is what I keep on talking, like it needs to be more visible because we just see a lot of the whole marketing process, the whole professional Zouk, the whole artistry has gone so much into ideal that we don't
Hmm.
see so much of this other way to dance Zouk. That is a different body language, that is not so engaged and it's still possible to have fun for a social dance. The thing is that we need to be able to reset the expectations
Yeah.
of what's possible to be done in these different layers.
Yeah.
And as long as you find contentment in the layer that you're dancing, you can absolutely, for me, it's absolutely possible to dance Zouk with good layers of good quantity of technique that is not overwhelming enough. It's good enough to cause you to have a social dance that is going to exist more because of memory and visual than high connection through the transferring of the weight of the body through the leg. That so we can have all of these layers happening, and there's a way to make it easier, more visual, more memory based, like many dances are. It is possible. We're just a little bit arrogant. We say that is not Zouk. We still do not embrace that aspect of Zouk that exists, you know?
Hmm.
But it exists. And if people learn in that and they adjust the expectation, like if you want to do certain things, yes, you need to have certain types of skills. If I want to build a bridge, it's different from me building Lego at home. So
Hmm.
it's not that you cannot build a bridge. Are you willing to putting in the effort
Right.
and the time that it takes to building the skills to build the bridge? But if you think you're gonna build a bridge inside of social with the amount of time that you spend dancing Zouk twice a month, like it's not gonna happen.
That's not
You
gonna
know what I'm
happen.
saying? You're
Yeah.
trying to get a degree in I don't know, it's gonna take you 10 years to complete this degree. People are
Yeah.
doing it in 1 or 2. So how much of it are you how much I don't know, are you dedicating yourself to it? It's possible. You just need to adjust the expectations you have around it. But we sell Zouk as if everything is possible. All the toalhas, like a fosse now with the toalhas coming, like we sell as if everything is social.
Uh huh.
And the truth is that it's not. It is possible, but it's not really social, you know?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think we're just over 2 hours, so we should probably bring it somewhat to a close. But I wanted to
Okay.
give you opportunity if you had anything else pressing on your mind that you wanted to discuss or mention or.
One thing,
And
like you can cut these into 2 parts. Just cut somewhere where I stop talking for any second if that happened, because I don't know. If I ever stop talking, you cut that. And you call this part one. This is my takeaway. Like I like when people say Nelly objective. And I was like, man, objective is tough. But I um but one thing that I like to say, like for this part two,
part two, yes, 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 yes. And
one
you
thing
can
that I
always
want
come back and we can do part 4 and 5 too, whenever you're ready, anytime.
and we can choose one thing that someone told me before I say the final thing. Someone told me, Nelly, can we get one topic? And I'm gonna start doing lives with this. Get one topic and do lives inside of that topic. Like we cannot escape that topic, and then the content is gonna be smaller too. So I'm gonna
Hmm.
start doing this. I love this idea, like mindset and whatever, Jack and Jill mindset. Because here I'm gonna go into different places, right? Because I'm talking
Yeah.
general. But like we're just gonna talk about teachers' perspective. How does that focus on teachers? Or choose one specific topic and I can go there too. But right now I'm trying to give it to everyone in all layers. So one thing that I would like to say for all layers and everyone, and this might not work for everyone. This is an invitation for you. I highly believe in this as a person, as a speaker, as a coach, as a teacher. I see myself as a leader. Honestly, I've always seen. And this is how I guide my life. Whenever you do something, see how that fits your life instead of otherwise. Because we choose relationships and we try to fit life in relationship. I
Hmm.
reshape myself to fit in the relationship structure or dynamic. When I
Hmm.
get a career, I try to make my life fit inside of a structure that is pre-established. And I choose a dance or an activity and I try to fit in my entire life to fit that. And I feel like the lesson that I think we're having here, the lesson and the blessing is to see how does this extra thing, everything that I choose to do, fit into my life as a being? How does that fit it? So if you do not put attention, and this is my invitation for you, if you do not put attention and figure out what matters for you, what are your values for your life, what kind of lifestyle do you really want to live in this moment? Things might change, but when you see yourself, some people can see themselves 3 years from now, 5 years. Some people know what they want at the end of their life. Some people just know what they want in the next 6 months. If your clarity is within 6 months, how are you making a commitment for three? If what you can see in your life, if your range of your vision for yourself is for 6 months, 1 year from now, how are you signing up for a business that you have to be committed for three? Is there any way you can adjust that to fit a 1 year vision? So my decision, and work on expanding that. Okay, there's always, it's not to say be a just do what you have. No, like allow yourself to expand, but first accept what you have. You can work on expanding after you accept it. So this is my invitation to people in Zouk right now. See how Zouk fit in your life. I think many people that are DJs, organizers, and teachers are actually swimming against their own life reality, and that's why I feel so much of a there's so much resistance and struggle. It is not fulfilling the flow of your own personal life right now, or whatever life you choose to live. This would be my least, and then Zouk is gonna become less of a problem. Zouk is a lot of a problem for a lot of us. For some, is a real professional problem. Some of us have synced Zouk with our life, like the Zouk athletes, Zouk dancers, Zouk international, whatever, Zouk organizers. Some of us
Mm-hmm.
realize Zouk is this; it's going along.
Yeah.
For some of us, we're just taking it on because for everyone else, it's a problem. So maybe it just need to be a problem for me too, and it doesn't. You
Mm-hmm.
know. So yeah, focus on your life and see where Zouk fits. And maybe you might realize that so many things that you've done do not really matter. And if it doesn't, like forgive yourself, it is okay. You have freedom to shift. As soon as you realize it, not blaming the past, like, oh my gosh, I should have, I dedicated myself. And I know many teachers that work with me and they say, I actually do not want to teach. I just wanted to do a local teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So many people realize that they do so much more than what actually fulfills them.
Yeah.
You know? That would be my invitation.
Okay. Wow. Um, Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
You.
I just adore you, Nelly. I mean, we've known each other
Oh.
for years, and we've danced many times, and I can't wait to our next dance.
Wow,
And
it was so
yeah,
nice. Both the Jack
I.
and Jill, the,
What was that?
both the Jack and Jill and social. It was so nice to see you during Zouk Heat.
Oh yes, 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 yes. That was yes. Ugh.
No, and you didn't
Okay.
talk about moving and grooving. See, please forgive me.
We didn't what talk about moving and grooving.
Your experience. Just realized right now.
My experience of moving grooving? No, yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It was, I mean, it was because it's been what I've been teaching locally here is just the reminder of because I see so many people stress out and then like sometimes brink of tears of frustration, and it's like it's okay. You know what I mean? It's just like, well, and also I like to remind some of my students too of just like I just remember when I was new to Zouk, it was rough for the first several months, right? As it is with most leaders, it takes a long time for it to get fun for the leaders, and for the follows, it's a little bit of time, but it seems to be a little sooner for the follows, right?
Yeah.
Um, but then I remember just the first few times that I had I like ascended, like I had just had this amazing connection and all of this, and I remember it being feeling so good, and I just was having the time of my life. I'm sure there's video of it, and my form is atrocious. Like I've definitely seen video of myself, and was like, my God, my form is so terrible. But I was having the time of my life, right? And so I'm trying to help usher my students in that direction to like we're just trying to get you to that place to where you can just have fun, and then we can work on the form. There's plenty of time to do the form, you know what I mean, and get it all clean where it's Instagram worthy if that's what you want or whatever. And so me attending your class was just such a strong revisit to that focus of joy and feel it in your body, and just it's hard to, I can't remember who said it. Maybe it was Brenda or somebody, but it's hard to be like sad when you're moving your hips. You know what I mean? It's hard. You know what I mean? You're just having you're just having a good time, and your class definitely brought that back. And I just really appreciate you bringing that, especially to a Congress, because most Congress, well, and thanks to Teresa too for inviting you to do it, because yeah, most Congresses, they are very much, it's what organizers and artists think that crowds want.
Yes.
Whereas I think sometimes it takes a little bit of bravery to push to put some vegetables in there. That's like, I know we know you all want to learn
Yes.
Tualia, we know, and the
Yes.
one-legged spins. But before that, we're just gonna do
Yeah.
this. Have a little bit of some vegetables. Just
Yeah.
remember, have fun.
And this is my hope. Like, if my hope is that it's still a request, people can always say no. And my hope is that I hope not my. I'm gonna talk for myself. I hope to get more hired for events.
Yeah, I
With
would love
more
to see that.
frequency for this. And I feel like, I mean, not hired for non-Zouk, and this is actually Zouk because half of the class goes into Zouk. It depends on what's happening there in the moment. I turn that into Zouk. We dance together. It becomes actually Zouk. But it's not the ideal Zouk. But people don't recognize social Zouk as Zouk, so it gets hard. Like, oh, this is not Zouk yet. I'm like, oh, wow, this is impregnated everywhere.
Yeah,
But I really hope we have more of this, more what I see in Kizomba and salsa, and people having solo dance experiences. And in the same class, bringing into the Zouk thing and see how do you feel right now. Not everything we do is to be seen. Some things are just to be felt. You
yeah,
know.
absolutely.
Thank you
Well,
so
thank you
much for
again.
the invitation.
And then where can people reach out to you to, if they want to hire you to do some coaching, or how can people reach you?
They can find me on my Instagram, Nelly underscore Bizouk. I just learned this word lately. Bizouk.
Okay,
So,
underscore.
yes, I used to say underline, and they say no, it's not. It's like, oh no.
Hmm.
So Nelly, Nelly, underline underscore Bizouk, Bizouk. I have other forms. People can find me in different ways through emails and everything, but I think this is the main one. This was just dance, but there's a lot of my coaching for dancers coming into this. Yeah. And this is where they can find private lessons, working with me 101, if they want to be student, if they want to be coached by me. Um, I like to say, if you want to see how your dance problems are actually life problems and you want to solve the problem from where it comes from, not where it looks like, search for me. I'm gonna help you with that. This is what I'm good at. I'm great at that. So they can find me there. Both organizers, teachers, anyone. And I'm open, you guys. I'm open to collaborations. I'm open to anything.
I love it.
Just want to get the words out.
I love it. Perfect. Well, thank you again so much for coming on. Oh,
Yes.
awesome. Okay, that's it. So thank you for joining the Zook line. I really appreciate you stopping by. As always, feel free to join the Discord or the Facebook group to join anyone else that has something to say, and I'm always looking forward to hearing your feedback. Anyhow, thanks again. We'll see you on the next episode of the Zook line.